Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Naomi, and today I want to give you a few basic tips so that you can do triangle pose with a little bit more awareness. So triangle pose is also known as Trikonasana in Sanskrit, and triangle pose is one of my very favorite poses in yoga. I love triangle pose because it's really effective at doing exactly what you want it to do for you, which is to work on strengthening your hamstrings and to help you create a more stable foundation overall. So triangle pose is also really great, just like all the other standing poses, for making you feel more grounded and just steadier on your feet. So it's a phenomenal foundational pose. It's also great for giving more action to your hips. It's really great prep for arm balances if that's something that you want to do. And it's just a really great pose overall. That's why I do it pretty much every single day. Okay, we're not always taught the basics of poses that are so foundational sometimes, right? Like you'll just do a class online or you'll go do a yoga class at a studio and the teacher might not teach you the specifics of the pose, and that's what I'm going to do today. Okay, so first thing that you want to do is to take your feet wide apart. Now, how wide is wide? That is a great question. Okay, often you might hear, take your feet 3 feet apart, but if you don't have several rulers handy, that's not going to be particularly helpful, and it's not going to be true for every body. Okay, not every person's body should be 3 feet apart for triangle pose. So the way that you can generally tell, okay, is to turn your right foot out, so your right foot is pointing toward that short edge of your mat, your left foot would be parallel to the other short edge of your mat, and then bend your right knee. Now, if your knee goes past your ankle, that might tell you that your stance is a little bit too short, so you can scoot your left foot, your back foot, a little bit further back, and then try again. And if you get a little bit closer to parallel, meaning your right thigh is about parallel to the floor or your right knee is about at a 90-degree angle, that's telling you that your stance is probably appropriate for your height. Now, if that feels too wide, you can always wiggle your back foot, your left foot in just a little bit, and that'll make you feel a little bit safer and a little bit more stable. That's fine, okay? But from there, all you're going to do is bring your hands to your hips, give your legs a good squeeze, heels toward one another, and then lengthen over your right leg. So your right elbow is going to come towards your right knee. Okay, now once you get there, you can bring your right hand to your shin, and then even press your shin up into your hand. So you're not pulling down, but press your shin up into your hand. You should feel more action down into your foot. From there, you can turn your chest up toward the ceiling and keeping your legs strong, keep squeezing your legs in, extend your left arm up. Okay, that's your triangle pose. Now, if you feel like you can go further down, you can slide your hand further down, maybe to your ankle, maybe even to the floor. Okay? You can always have a block by your shin as well if you just want something a little bit more sturdy to have your hand on. Okay? And then to come out of the pose, you can bring your left hand back to your hip, give your legs a really good squeeze again, like pull your heels together like there are magnets on your heels. And if your hand was on a block, you can put your hand back on your shin, back to your thigh, and then all the way upright. Okay? Now this is the most classic way to get into triangle poses, from standing and lengthening over. However, there's another way that people tend to go into triangle pose that I think might not be as beneficial for your body or for most bodies, generally speaking. And that's what I call the Jane Fonda. Now, before we go any further, I should say I'm a huge fan of Jane Fonda. I love Jane Fonda. And the reason that I call it the Jane Fonda is that I used to do workouts with my mom back in the 80s when like Chevron was first a thing and like headbands and leg warmers and the whole deal. And Jane Fonda used to do this thing, right, with her arms like this, okay? And this is usually how people, that action is how people often get into triangle pose, okay? So the Jane Fonda would look like this, right? You push your hips out of the way, going over your left leg, you reach with your left arm and go all the way over, okay? Now I don't want you to do that. I mean, you can if you want to try it, but the reason I don't want you to do that is if I push my hips out of the way, I'm creating a little bit less symmetry, a little bit less support in my back, a lot more work in my hamstrings without as much action in my legs, right? So I'm literally moving my hips out of the way so I can create more length in my side body. Okay, that's not particularly productive. And it can put a lot of pressure on your hamstrings, and if they're kind of unstable or weak or not as strong as you would like them to be or even kind of tight, all right, then it's not going to feel as good, right? And we want yoga to feel good. I want yoga to feel good anyway. I hope that you do too. So maybe using the royal we isn't the best idea, but I'm assuming that you want yoga to feel good also. So instead of thinking about moving your hips out of the way and reaching as far over as you can go. Instead, I like to think of it, I start with everybody in this way, hands at the hips, stretch up through the sides of your body, squeeze your heels in, and then as you lift up, lengthen over, but don't push your hips out of the way, and keep lengthening over. Now as you do, squeeze your heels toward one another so your heels are really active and strong. And then you can bring your hand down to your shins. It's exactly what we did on the other side. Okay, now the other thing that you want to watch out for is like dropping down into your knee, right? And that's called hyperextending. So if your knee locks or pushes down, instead press up with your shin into your hand, lengthen from your hips through your side body, and then maybe you can go a little further toward the floor. Maybe not. Okay, you can also keep your hand at your hip at all times, or you can extend your right arm up. Okay, so you've got lots of options there. Okay, now to come back up, just like you did on the first side, squeeze your legs in, so that's gonna pull your hand up a bit. You can bring your hand to your shin, hand to your thigh, and then come all the way upright. Okay, and then step your feet together for just a sec, shake them out, for just a sec, for just a sec, shake them out. Okay, because that's a lot of work to do for your hammies. And again, that's the most conventional way to get into triangle pose. I think it's a really great way to get into triangle pose because it emphasizes the strength of your foundation, right? Staying steady through your foundation, all of those really good things. That said, I'm going to show you another way. Okay, you're still going to come from a wide pose. Just take your legs out wide. Now you can have a block if on those first tries, those first two triangle poses, if you felt like your fingertips couldn't get to the floor or you wanted more support, make sure you have that. Turn your right foot out, bend your right knee, and bring your hands down to the ground, to the inside of your leg and kind of on the diagonal. Okay? Now give your heels a squeeze again, as though there are magnets on your heels, pull them in. Now that should activate your upper left inner thigh and your right butt cheek, right? Your under butt is the way I like to think of it. Okay, now once you're there, see if you can push your thighs back. Just reach them back behind you and walk a little bit closer in. Now keep pushing into your left leg, into your whole left foot. Use your upper left inner thigh to push your thigh back and start to straighten your right leg. Okay, then take that action again. Bend your knee, tone your right inner thigh by squeezing your right heel towards your left. Push through your thigh, straighten your right leg, and then one more time. Squeeze your heels in. Push from your left inner thigh so that you can straighten your right leg. Okay, then bring your right hand a little bit closer towards your shin so that your right arm is right up against your inner shin. Squeeze your arm into your shin, push your shin into your arm, and use that resistance to turn your chest up. Okay, then you can extend your left arm up. Okay, take a full breath in, full breath out. Okay, take one more full breath in. Okay, and then instead of coming up to stand, bring your left hand back to the floor, turn your right foot in, walk over to your left side, turn your left foot out, bend your knee, and walk your hands out slightly. And all this really does is emphasizing the action of your back leg so that your back leg is your stable and strong leg. Right? The back leg is the leg that you can rely on. Okay, so give your heels a squeeze, tone your upper right inner thigh, and then push your thigh up and back. So you're reaching up through your inner thigh. As you do that, you'll feel like you have more room to straighten your left leg. Go for it. And then bend again. Okay, repeat that. I'm just going to move my hands out of the way so you can see what I'm doing, but you want to keep them a little bit further up in the diagonal. I'm just moving more to the center so you can see my leg better. Push through your upper inner thigh. Start working on straightening your left leg, and then bend again. And then one more time, push through your upper right inner thigh. Squeeze your heels toward one another. Straighten your left leg, and then walk your left hand a little closer in. Okay, pull your left leg towards your left arm. Push your arm into your leg. Start to turn your chest up. Okay, turn your chest up toward the sky. Keep squeezing your leg into your arm into your leg, and reach your right arm up. If that feels like too much, you can bring your hand to your hip. If that feels great, you can also take your right arm alongside your ear. Just give yourself a little extra side body. But keep squeezing your legs in. So notice, my legs are going to let go, right? That's natural. You can't hold forever. But as I squeeze my legs in, see how that lifts me up a little bit? It gives me more opportunity to pull my chest up. That's what you want. All right, the more you squeeze in, the more you can turn, the more power you have in your foundation. Okay, and then lower your right hand back to the floor. Bend your knee, turn your foot in, and then bring your hands to your hips and come come all the way up to stand. And step your feet back together. Give your legs a little shake. Okay? Now there are lots of ways to get into triangle pose, like coming from those wide stances are sort of the most conventional ways, but you can come into triangle pose all kinds of ways. Okay, that's not what I'm so worried about today. Today I want to make sure that you have a really clear foundation, right? Where you want your feet to be, how you want your legs to act, and how you can use those actions to create more opening in the pose, to create more confidence in the pose. Okay? Now there's one more really fun way that you can add to triangle pose, and it's adding a little bit of core strength and core action. I'm going to show you two. They're the same way, but one is with a prop, one is without. Okay? So, same deal. Take your legs wide apart, and you can test that distance by turning your right foot out. Left foot should be parallel, and then bend your knee. And I'm going to bring the block close. Not going to use it yet. Not going to use it yet, but I'm going to bring it close. Squeeze your legs in. And as you squeeze your legs inward toward one another, you should feel your upper inner thighs engage. Right? As you pull in a little bit more, you might even feel your pelvic floor pull up a little bit. That's great. Bonus. Okay? And then keeping that alignment. So your ribs are back over your hips. Your head is back over your hips. Okay? Keeping that alignment, reach your arms up. Okay? Imagine that you're squeezing a block. Okay? In fact, if you want to grab the block, you can grab the block, but that makes it a little harder. So imagine you're squeezing a block and start to lengthen over your leg. Now don't push your hips out of the way. Keep that strength in your legs as you lengthen over your right leg. Keep squeezing. Okay, now you could take your arms apart and just let your right arm dangle as your left arm lifts, or you could keep pulling your arms toward one another. And this is triangle pose with your legs. Your arms are reaching out. The further over you go, the more your core has to work. And then you can just bring your right hand down. Oh, left arm up. Oh my goodness, that feels so nice. And then to come back up, squeeze your legs in, lift your right hand, pull your arms toward one another, and lift all the way back up. Release your arms. Okay, turn your right foot in, just pause for a moment. Okay, so one of those really important things in triangle pose is to keep your legs really active and to keep them strong. And one of the things that we tend to lose, particularly when the hips get pushed out of the way, is that powerful foundation. And that's really at the heart of why triangle pose is such a fantastic pose, is because of foundation. So you want to maintain that really strong foundation as you do it. Okay? Now, another thing that often comes up in triangle pose is like, where should I put my head? Or there are other things that I often hear, teachers say, like, fit yourself between two panes of glass. Okay, well, first of all, that for me is super claustrophobic, right? I don't want to be between two panes of glass, but also you're a three-dimensional person. Okay, a different way to think of that is to think, I really want my ribs to be lined up with my hips, right? My butt might be back behind me a little bit, my thighs might go back, but I really want my ribs to be aligned with my hips, and I want my head to be lined up with my shoulders. So if your head is jutting forward, right, like this, then you're going to feel it probably in less nice ways, okay? Mostly in your shoulders and your neck. In terms of where your head and your neck should be, one of the things that I often offer, and you don't have to go into it yet, but if your neck is bothering you, don't look up. Look forward, because that's going to help you stay in line more. You can even put your hand behind your head and press your head into your hand instead of extending your arm up, right? You can even look down and not worry about looking forward or up, and that's going to be the most relaxed position for your neck. So if your neck tends to get a little cranky during triangle pose, when you look up, don't look up. Look forward, look down, support your head. Those are some good options. But here's the last kind of fun way to spice up your triangle pose once it starts to feel a little bit more familiar. So you're going to take your block, and you can put it on any height you want next to your left foot. So your right foot is parallel to that short edge, left foot points out, okay? And then just like before, you can lift up, keeping your legs strong, lengthen over, without pushing anything out of the way, keeping your rib cage lined up with your hips, and instead of taking your head forward, take it back. Then bring your hand down to the block and reach your right arm up. And now give your legs a good squeeze so you feel more power in your legs. Lift the block up, grab it with your right hand. Take the block in your right hand up and lower your left hand down. And then you're going to repeat it. Squeeze your legs in, grab the block, lower it back down to the floor. Okay, again, squeeze your legs in, lift the block up, grab it with your right hand. Right arm goes up, left down. Okay, 2 more times. Squeeze in, grab it. Left hand with the block goes down. Squeeze in, lift up, grab it, lower down. And then last time, squeeze in, grab it, and come all the way up to stand. Give your knees a bend, step your feet in, woo, shake that baby out, okay? And those are just some ways. So the first two ways are ways that are more foundational, ways that you can practice triangle pose. The second two, particularly that last one, is a really great way to help find more strength in your legs so that you can access strength in your core and feel more grounded, more steady in your entire body from this fantastic pose. So I hope this has helped answer some questions foundationally for you about triangle pose. I hope that it's given you some really good tips and some really great ways to practice more confidently on your yoga mat, whether you're doing an online yoga class or whether you're doing an offline yoga class. So thanks for tuning in. Let me know if you have any other questions, and I hope to see you back on the mat again really soon. And if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, clicking on the link in the bottom right corner so that you can get videos like this every single week. So again, thanks for tuning in. See you back on the mat again really soon. Bye.